welcome back to the Josh and Foster podcast. I am Foster. I am here as my terrific co-host.
Josh, hello, hello.
Today we have a very, very special guest. It is our first guest of the podcast. Let's give a big round of applause to Mez. Woo, Mez!
Oh, thank you. Too kind, too kind.
So Mez is a friend of ours. He's a big hockey fan. Mez, what's your team?
My favorite team will have to be the New York Rangers, but of course, I'm Canadian, so I gotta have some love for the Leafs too.
Okay, there we go.
Good man.
So a friend of Josh there, and an enemy of mine in this division this year. So yeah. So Mez, how'd you end up picking the Rangers as your team?
Well, funny enough, I actually originally I was a Senators fan because my last name is Mazzeros, and Andre Mazzeros played for the Senators as a
Oh,
defenseman, and I kind of just hopped on the wagon and picked a favorite team. Other than I was a huge Leafs fan when I was a kid, but then as I got older, I think I was probably about maybe 13 or 14, and I was playing one of the NHL's like video games, and this guy just kept on beating me with the Rangers. And then I started playing with the Rangers, and then the next thing I knew, I was following them. I was watching all the games, and eventually went to a game in Buffalo, and fell in love with them. So yeah, that's how I became a Rangers fan.
that's pretty awesome. What a
Yeah.
story. All right. Well, some big news out of Boston.
I mean,
Bergeron being the captain. I think that
yeah,
was said on the podcast last week. I think someone called that.
yep,
Yep.
yeah, you did. You did. I was calling that one of the main three, but it was Bergeron, and I mean, it was very well deserved there.
Hey, what do you think about that, Mez? Patrice
Uh,
Bergeron, the next captain of the Bruins, now that Chara's moved on.
well, Chara's kind of a it's a hard role to fill, but Bergeron's a pretty well all around good player. He brings a lot to the team, and I guess we just got to see how his leadership's going to work with the rest of the guys. But I think it's a good move. I think a lot of players respect him, and I think this is a good chance for him to take the leading role and probably bring him to another cup. So
Yeah. We also have some bad news about the Bruins as well. David Pasternak's going to miss the beginning of the season till about February, they said, beginning to mid February. So that big three might be a little slow to start off the season, and missing them. Who knows how long that's going to take for them, Boston, with that suspect defense to get rolling, and that may cause a lot of problems with that team. All right, Josh, what's some of the other news?
Yeah, this week there was a lot of news around kind of COVID and a bunch of teams. Today, currently on Sunday, Vancouver canceled all their practices and workouts with potential exposure. Yesterday, Pittsburgh had canceled all of their stuff due to the same reasons. And then on Friday, Columbus kept about half of their training camp off just for potential exposure. And Dallas announced that 6 players and 2 staff members did test positive. So the start of their season has now been delayed until the 19th instead of, I believe, the 14th.
Well, it happened in football. It happened in baseball. It was a matter of time for it to happen in hockey. So, not really too surprised about Dallas. That is Texas, and that is one place that is the Wild West right there with the COVID issues. What do you think about that, Mez?
I think everybody needs to stay home.
Uh,
As much as I want to watch hockey, I think everyone needs to stay home. It's getting crazy in America right now, and Canada's even getting worse too. But I think as long as the teams stay to their divisions for this year, hopefully they'll have a good season, and everyone will well everyone that's got COVID right now will kick it, and hopefully there won't be too many more cases going into the later season.
as we say on here, hopefully none of them die. Let's hope for
Yep.
that. Let's hope
Hope so,
everyone
man.
stays safe. That's the most important thing. So we got to
Yeah,
think
no,
about.
it'll definitely be interesting seeing how cases and just how many things get delayed or postponed or canceled this season because of it. Obviously, we hope now with the vaccines coming out that it can potentially like lower the cases, the new cases at least. But it'll be interesting to see how it affects kind of the season and if things still get worse. Just like Mez said, we might have to cancel the season or delay it or something. It would be bad news, but it could be the smartest decision on.
And I know right now there's some issues going on in basketball with the Philadelphia 76ers and New York Rangers. So both of those teams share facilities with the Flyers and the Rangers. So Knicks and the Rangers, and then the Flyers and the Sixers. So that's already not off to a great start. That's where baseball and football kind of had an advantage, where they didn't share their facilities with anyone. So yeah, what else do we have, Josh? Any big news?
Big news. There's a lot of news out in New Jersey this week.
Oh yes.
First of all, Corey Crawford did retire now.
Great career. Gotta give a clap to it.
He did have a good career.
Two-time Stanley Cup champion.
Yep, he was taking a leave of absence at the start of the week, but just I think yesterday or day before, he announced that he was going to retire. Does put New Jersey in a bit of a situation now without having a decent second goalie behind.
You know, it's awful to hear for poor Corey Crawford, because, you know, remember all the stuff he had a few years ago. He had the vertigo going on, and then he had the concussion issues, and I was really hoping this would be the year for good old Corey Crawford to get everything back and rolling. So yeah. So, Ez, what do you think about the whole Corey Crawford situation?
Well, clearly, I think it was his time to go, but I'm sure they'll find someone for the beginning of the season.
Yeah, hopefully, like you were sad about this, Mez, but you did tell me it was his time to go. Henrik Lundqvist going
the king.
Yeah, going to Washington and then having his heart surgery, and and then a goalie and Craig Anderson got snapped up on a PTO by them. So hopefully they can find someone. If not, a team that's already bad is going to get worse. So
yeah, but someone's got to get worse for other people to get better, you know?
That's true.
Yeah, so other news out of New Jersey then. They did they had a few re-signings this week as well. They got Jesper Bratt. He was an RFA. He signed a 2-year, $5.5 million deal with them. Last year he played 60 games, 16 goals, 16 assists. So not too bad of a player right there. I feel like that's a bit of a fair salary for him. They also re-signed Sami Vatanen, which is a little bit funny because they did trade him at the trade deadline to Carolina. And that was the only player Carolina got for the players that was traded to New Jersey. But he re-signed with New Jersey then, so Carolina kind of missed out. But last season he had 47 games, 5 goals, 18 assists. So overall, not a bad season for him either.
And in big Islanders news, as we were talking about last week, Matthew Barzal. It was a three-year deal, $21 million, so $7 million a year. That's pretty good for Matthew Barzal. I was a little stunned if he didn't end up signing. I thought he was going to be that one guy that, like Willie did a few years ago, hold out for an extended period of time. Not one to play.
Both of you were hoping he was going to hold out.
I was hoping for an Islanders player to hold out. How about you, Mez? I
was hoping to, man.
Yeah. It's still nice to really stick it to the Islanders this year, and maybe they would have made Buffalo an easier chance to go in. Well, something that I did figure out the other day, there's one thing that all three of our teams have had in common. In the past 5 years, all three of us have had a first overall pick.
Sure.
Josh had Austin Matthews. I had Rasmus Dahlin, and Mez had this year's and gold medal winning Lafreniere, which, Alexi, he looks scary out there.
You know, he's a phenomenal player. I just hate the stipulation around how everybody thought the pick was rigged, with the weighted ping pong ball there. But you know what? I think the media's calmed down about that one a little bit now, and I'm excited to have him. And I think it's going to give us a real good confidence boost since we just, we lost Lundqvist. Lundqvist was a veteran of the team. He definitely, in my opinion, he was one of the best goaltenders, but he's getting older. Everybody has their time, and he shined. And it would have been nice for him to get another cup with them, but he's got some great goalies now taking over for him. And I think with our number one pick and good goaltenders, we're going to have a nice fresh start to the year.
Yeah, that'd be. I think the Rangers are going to be an exciting team to watch. I think there's going to be a lot of goals scored, but the question is for the Rangers, how many can they keep out of the net? Because that defense, top two look good. And beyond that, it's how many goals can Panarin and the Breadman pop in with Lafreniere, and that's going to be dangerous together with Capo. What a name that guy has.
And see, so my question is I don't know if you've heard or not, because I haven't. Is Georgiev stepping up as the starting goalie?
I thought I heard it was Shesterkin. I heard Georgiev.
Is it going to be Shesterkin?
That's what I was hearing. Georgiev was going to be the backup, and Shesterkin's going to be the number one guy. He looked good last year. He did.
See, Shesterkin definitely has the background with him. He has the experience. I really enjoyed watching Georgiev play when Lundqvist was out. A lot of goaltenders, especially backups, they get their one chance to shine, usually when someone's injured. And I think Georgiev stepped up in that position. So even though even if he stays as the backup goalie, I think we have a really strong backup. So.
I think a great 1A, 1B situation, I think is what's going to be happening in New York, especially with this division having some very shaky and young Russian goaltending, as we went over last week. I don't know what it is with this division and young Russian goaltending, but the Islanders have one, the Rangers have one, and Washington has one. All right, well, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and let's go to the North Division. What do you think of the North Division, Mez, an all-Canadian division?
Well, it looks like it's going to be a good mashup of teams. We definitely, I can't wait to see what Calgary's going to bring to the bunch of teams there. I want to see how they match up against some of those teams, but I definitely think this is going to be a really good battle between Toronto and Montreal. In my opinion, probably two of the best teams in the division. Edmonton obviously is definitely one of the better teams now too, but I think it's going to come down to Toronto and Montreal for the North Division.
Interesting. Yeah, we had somebody in the comments talking a lot about Montreal. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Josh and I each were not very high on Edmonton. We both thought that Toronto would be up there in the thing, and Josh wasn't as high on Montreal as I was. I think that is a really big possibility. As we were talking about goaltendings and great goaltenders, Carey Price would have taken the Rangers out in the 2014 playoffs if it wasn't for Kreider helping out. But when that guy's on, there's not a lot of people that can score on that guy. So let's just say it at that. And then what else do we got? We got the Central Division with Tampa Bay, the Stanley Cup champions. Do you think, Mez, do you think they'll repeat?
You know what? With the powerhouse team like Detroit in their division, I don't know if they'll stand a chance. But no, I think Tampa Bay's got a good chance. They obviously got to beat out Chicago, and Dallas and Columbus both have a good force behind them. Don't really think too much about Carolina, but other than that, I think their biggest competitor is probably going to be between Columbus and Chicago. That's in my opinion.
Yeah. What do you think about out west? We've got the Ducks, who have been down the past few years. They've gotten old. The Sharks have gotten old too. Vegas loaded up once again. They just seem to keep going. The Blues are still the Blues from a couple years ago, and the good old fashioned Avalanche. Like, wow, that team's gonna be good. Those young guys with Nate McKinnon, they're gonna be speeding. What do you think of the West Division?
Well, I definitely think LA is definitely a strong presence coming out, and with Vegas being a new team, it's not like they're entering the league as an underdog. They definitely got a good team behind them. I don't like to say money buys players, but they definitely got a good salary behind them. So I think it's going to be an interesting division. I really hope to see a lot out of Anaheim. I'm not a Ducks fan, but I like to watch them win. So
If the Rangers had the number 2 pick, Mez, would you have wanted that? Josh and I have talked about this a lot, but would you have wanted that Quinton Byfield, that big number 1 center, or are you happy with getting Lafreniere?
well, I definitely think I'm happy with Lafreniere. Like I don't think anybody wouldn't be, but no, a good centerman like him would have been a good option as well. But overall, I think. Come on, what kind of a question is that, Foster?
Yeah.
You know who we wanted. So
Yeah. I don't know, man. Watching that World Juniors, watching that guy Ottawa picked overall, 3rd overall, there, Stutzel. Man, that guy looks dangerous. That guy is. I think he's going to be competing with Lafreniere for a long time.
Very true.
Yeah, in the World Juniors, he had 5 games played. He had 5 goals and 5 assists, so 10 points in 5 games. So
yeah,
he's
dangerous.
definitely
Ottawa definitely got lucky, and I do think when you're talking about the Kings there, that Quinton Byfield is going to be behind Kopitar. That's going to be good for some development. We've known Kopitar has been in the league for a long time, so hopefully that helps him grow as a centerman and understand it and come in easier, because we know that's always difficult for a young guy.
Good.
Yeah, what do you think, Mez, of the teams in the East? Boston, Buffalo, New Jersey, the Islanders, Philly, Pittsburgh, and Washington.
Because even last week we talked, and even our opinions were different on teams that were going to make it. So I definitely feel like this is probably the closest division.
Okay. Have they announced how many teams are going to make it through from each division?
4.
4.
Yeah, so the top 4 with points.
Okay. Well, obviously, my biased opinion definitely says Rangers are going to take it all, but I think a big thing for the Rangers is going to be if Lafreniere works well with them, and their goaltenders can stand up strong. I definitely think they have a good chance of making that top 4. But regarding the other teams, Pittsburgh's a threat, Washington's a threat. I think Buffalo might be a threat this year. I know Foster likes to hear that, but
oh yeah.
I think for Rangers, they're definitely going to have to make sure every time they're playing the Islanders that they walk out with a W, or else might bring their morale a little bit down. But if I had to pick a top 4 right now, just based off of what I know and what I've seen, I would put Washington, Pittsburgh. Some people might hate me for this, but I'm going to say Rangers and Buffalo in that top 4. You know what? I think Buffalo's got a lot coming out of them this year. And I'm not just saying that to win over Foster, because I've already won him over once or twice. But I definitely think Buffalo is a team to watch for. But and you know what? I completely looked over Boston, so that kind of changes a few opinions there. Might have bumped Buffalo out of my top 4.
Well, Boston does have a weaker defense now that Big Z's gone out of town to Washington, so that might hit them harder than they think. Bergeron's a good captain, but missing Chara might hurt a little more than they think it will in the long run.
I think Chara was also a very good. He was a good leader, and a lot of the players looked up to him, not just in his height, but he was a strong player. He was definitely a leader, and he didn't take lightly to being pushed around.
Very true. Very true. All right, so we wanted to get a little World Junior talk. Wasn't the outcome I know all 3 of us would have wanted. In the U.S. winning 2-0, and the barrel, as they said it looked more like a garbage can that they rolled out. But it was an unfortunate game. I watched the whole thing except for the last minute when they kind of still thought they were going to score. But at night, man, he's going to be dangerous in the NHL. He's going to be a dangerous goalie for Florida for many years.
Yep. No, but it was a good game overall. Definitely not the way I'm sure any of us were hoping, but good game, kind of nevertheless. But also Finland was able to beat Russia for the bronze.
Yeah, the Russians just fell apart when it became time to the medal round. They looked lost against Canada, and then I watched that into that Finland game, and that third period it just looked like Finland could do whatever they wanted, and the Russians just looked lost, and they didn't know. I think they forgot how to play hockey. It looked like at times, and they were just too emotional. It was the youngest Russian team they've had in years, bunch of 18-year-olds, new coach, new system, weird system, but I think next year Russia's going to come back pretty strong and pretty hard. And Sweden once again quarterfinals collapse. They need to get some things worked out, but they were missing quite a few of their big guys due to COVID. So and their coach. So and the streak did get broken in this tournament. So that was something quite wild. And yeah, I think Florida's got a pretty good setup in the future with Knight and Levi, the Canadian goalie. I think Florida was the biggest winner, seeing they've got a 1-2 tandem for the next 10 to 15 years. And Roberto Luongo before the game was pretty excited about it. I don't know if either of you saw his little post he had on Instagram and Twitter, but he was pretty excited about watching the game, watching two Florida guys go at it. It's quite funny. In his red underwear. But he actually said in mid thing he did this whole video about how excited he was to watch two Florida guys, and he goes, "I know who I'm cheering for," and then he goes, "But I've got my red underwear on." It was weird, uncomfortable. I didn't even know that. Yeah, and it's back in Edmonton, I believe, next year. I think that's what Ray and Gord were saying. So 2 straight years in Canada. That's good to see.
Love to see it.
Hopefully next year there'll be fans. That was a weird World Juniors.
Yeah.
No fans. I know. I remember when we were kids, when it'd be in Canada, that building would be rocking.
Oh yeah.
For those games. Those were exciting times back in the 5-year run. All right. What else do we have, Josh?
It's pretty much everything. Columbus did have a few signings this week. They were able to sign Bjorkstrand and Del Zotto. Del Zotto did play with Anaheim last year. Got 2 goals, 13 assists. And he signed just a 1-year contract, but we don't know yet kind of what that signing was about. And then Bjorkstrand had 21 goals and 15 assists last year. He did sign a bit longer term with a 5-year contract for $27 million. So I feel like that was a fair wage for him too. And Buffalo, they signed someone as well. Did you see?
Yes, Riley Sheahan. He was a PTO. He was a trial guy. Played for Edmonton. Fourth liner. Third or fourth liner. I hope he doesn't play much, to be 100% honest. He's from St. Catharines. So he's pretty close. He grew up a Sabres fan. Honestly, hope he doesn't play much. I want to see a lot of Dylan Cousins.
Even for fourth line, though?
Yeah, I think they've got that fourth line worked out, even though they had a big injury in Zemgus Girgensons, but that doesn't – he was a fourth liner once again. It was unfortunate. I hope he's healthy. His hamstring will get in order. It'll be a 6 month after he gets surgery, so I hope everything works out and he gets back on the ice. But fourth liner, yeah, wasn't loving the lines in the scrimmage, but I always like to see Hall and Eichel play together. And I know you had some of the opinions, Josh, on your scrimmage game.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. It was interesting. It was interesting to watch.
Jumbo on the top line. I thought he was going to get winded.
Honestly, watching the game yesterday, he wasn't playing that bad with them. He wasn't playing that bad.
That shootout was horrible.
That shootout was not the greatest, but.
What do you think of that, miss? Jumbo Joe, Big Joe Thornton going to the Leafs. That's a wild.
It's pretty wild. I think it's definitely a really good thing for the Leafs. If he works well with the some of the young guys out there, I think he's going to be quite a powerhouse for him.
I'm just concerned halfway through the game he's going to get winded and need to get off the ice and get some oxygen. I don't think he can play with Marner and Matthews for an extended period of time. I think that's a little much for him. I think
short shifts.
Short shifts. I think him and Wayne Simmons need to hang out on the third line and pace themselves up and down the ice. That's what Zach Hyman's there for.
Only takes a few seconds to score a good goal, so
that's true. That is very true. Yeah, well, we do have one topic. Just before we get going here, it was Super Wild Card weekend in the NFL. We're in the last game. My Buffalo Bills did beat the Colts, so Josh Allen had a great game. That guy should win the MVP. The second game, the Rams had a good game against the Seahawks, who hadn't beaten them. And third game last night, Tom Brady wins in a jersey that is not a New England Patriots. So winning as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, that's pretty quite the thing, proving that Tom didn't need Bill. And then today we had the Ravens beating the Titans, and then in the best game of the day. Did you hear about this? They had a Nickelodeon game. They had a football game on Nickelodeon with SpongeBob, and there was slime, like they do in that award ceremony they do when they got touchdowns. Looked pretty horrible. The Bears lost to the Saints in that game. It looked so bad. When they went to kick a field goal, SpongeBob's face was the spot they had to hit on the TV. And then when they were trying to explain what a fumble was, they had Sandy explaining it to SpongeBob and Patrick what a fumble was at the Krusty Krab. So with Krabby Patties. So
Sounds like a mess.
it just, if you look at some of the pictures on the internet, it was just horrible. And then tonight, the Cleveland Browns are curb stomping the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last I saw it was 28-0. I think it's time to get the shovels out and start burying big old Ben Roethlisberger in that career, because I think that's done. So we'll see what happens next week. All I hope is that my Bills keep going and we get a Super Bowl. All right. Well, that was another successful show. Thank you, Mez, for being our first guest onto the podcast.
Yes, thank you very much.
Hey, it was my pleasure. I didn't keep up this year with the NHL too much. Everything was kind of crazy with getting a new job and COVID and getting engaged and everything. So I wasn't too.
Congratulations from
Thank
both
you,
of us.
thank you. That wasn't too on top of my hockey, but I definitely like to talk sports. So
Yeah.
I was happy to be here, guys.
Well, we'll definitely have you back in the near future. All right. Thank you very much, and goodbye.